Good morning, everyone in the sanctuary, and also those that are watching on live stream to part two of our roundtable discussion. Can Christians be members of Greek fraternities and Greek sororities? First, I'm going to open it up in prayer, and then we'll get right into some of the questions. Father, in the name of Jesus, thank you for blessing us to see another day. Thank you for waking us up this morning to see another beautiful day that you have created. Thank you for an opportunity to come together, Lord God. And please guide us through this discussion so that we can learn from it, so that we can apply it to our lives, be better Christians, better servants. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, a few things I want to address first on the housekeeping side of it. The scope of this round table discussion is tailored as a response. There's a lot of times on social media, on the internet, you might be presented with an argument, excuse me, and it's rare that you see both sides of an argument whenever things are presented. So the purpose of this roundtable was to get individuals who are members of organizations to kind of give their perspectives on the process of renouncing and denouncing your organizations. A few terms that I want to establish: the term denounce, to announce formally the termination of something; renounce, repudiate, to refuse to obey or recognize any further; to refuse to follow. And the scope of this roundtable is within the scope of the Divine Nine organization. There's a lot of Greek organizations that extend outside of the nine organizations, but these are the ones that we're talking about in this roundtable. And one other note when it comes to membership of these organizations: they're organizations, but they consist of individual chapters. Individual chapters have individual management, individual people that run those chapters. So the comments and the feedback you'll get from this panel is not representation or not endorsed by the organization, not speaking on behalf of the organization, or speaking on behalf of their individual chapters as well. So with that, we'll go through and have the panel introduce themselves briefly. There's a few individuals that you might recognize from our last panel, and I want to thank Shalon this week for being the only female representation on the panel. Give her a hand. It was actually flipped last week, so I appreciate her for being a good support this week for it. So we'll start off by giving your name, your organization, and just a quick intro on why you joined your said organization.
I am Shalon Evans. I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I joined to just continue my act of service and sisterhood with a group of ladies who are committed to making our world a little better.
Hi, I'm Donald Thibodeau. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I joined Kappa Alpha Psi because I like the brotherhood. I like the scholarship that they was pushing forward, all the messages they were giving in all their programs. So it kind of directed me directly to them.
And hi, everyone. I'm Brandon Johnson. I'm a member of the Iota View chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha, joined fall 2012. What attracted me to Alpha Phi Alpha was, like you said, the scholarship, brotherhood, as well as the social activities on campus, mostly based on community service, and that's why I joined.
Hello, my name is Stacy Harper, a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I joined mostly from the influence of my two brothers. My oldest brother is a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. My other brother is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, and I was more attracted to Kappa Alpha Psi based on the mantra of achievement and wanted to offer something to the fraternity itself to just further that credo.
I'm Roche Coleman, and also I joined because of affiliation with a lot of noobs when I was in high school and junior high on the campuses at J State and Tulu, and so that was some of my impetus for joining. And glad to be here again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Now, at the end of our last roundtable, we ended with a question. So the first question I'm going to pose to the new members of the panel, Donald, Brandon, and Stacy. When it comes to these Greek organizations on campuses, and also I want to preface there's the on-campus organization, there's the undergrad and the grad chapters. So we'll hear from both perspectives. But in this case, the undergraduate ones in particular, a lot of times you see these organizations, you don't typically see them at libraries doing positive things. There's a lot of negative things associated with them. So as a Christian, first and foremost, how do you reconcile the fact that these organizations are seen doing Christian activities, and you're still a member of that. First to you, Donald, then Brandon and Stacy.
Well, I know when I was on campus and when I pledged, we spent a lot of time in the library. So when I was online for 13 weeks, and a lot of that time we spent in the library. Our GPAs actually went up. So to say that we didn't handle the library or we didn't work there, no, that's not really true. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff that things people consider to be fun, and that's usually what gets the attention. It's not the things that we did in the community or not the things that we did, to help others out. They pretty much just look for the things like, oh, they're too raucous, they're crazy. All they want to do is party. That is not the true case. And that's not how these organizations work and how they actually existed for over 100 years.
Yeah, I think over time, the kind of balance has shifted. I would say earlier on when the organization started, a lot of more service, community service over the time, like when I joined 2012. Obviously there's the social aspect of it as well, whether you think of like parties or gatherings. But I think a lot of that is just driven out of, people coming together on a college campus. But even my organization, as well as others on campus, were, at worst 50-50 balance with the more social aspects, feeding the campus, food drives, helping out at pantries. I mean, we painted houses that were, dilapidated. We constructed or, did different things like that for helping people in the community, other acts of community service as well. But I do get the aspect of the social life. I mean, just like with anything in life, if you are into that or you're driven towards that, you can find it. My organization on campus, they, threw parties and things like that. But a lot of that was the fun, the social, or the more community service aspects.
Yeah, kind of speaking to what you guys had mentioned, I always find that that portion of it is what's filmed. That's what we see is what's filmed and what's in media. That social aspect, and you hardly ever see film, the scholarship, the community service, and that was just a must for my organization when we were there. So I think mostly it's really just kind of, for lack of a better word, Hollywoodish, what we've seen on film, and that's the stigma that's given to our organization.
Thank you. Before I get into the next question, I want to read a few things, a few headlines that definitely tie into this next question. A few headlines. Lawsuit claims sorority hazing led to suicide. 9 accused of hazing, death, alcohol involved. Fraternity placed on intern suspension due to video of hazing. 20-year-old dies from hazing. As a Christian, being a member of these organizations, knowing that hazing is associated with some of these organizations and the process, what's your response to that? Can a Christian be associated with these organizations that are also associated to events such as these? And I'll start with Shalon, start with this one.
I think one of the things I think about with that, and I think I said it last week, is that there are always bad actors in an organization, regardless of whether it's a Greek letter organization or anything else, who try to do things in a manner where they feel that's the way you become a sister or a brother. But that's not something that's endorsed by the entire organization. It's actually discouraged. And when those things happen, unfortunately, it's always broadcast and put out there. But there's never that information about all the good things that they're doing. And unfortunately, our society loves to kind of harp on those negative aspects out there. I think that's just something that goes along with being in any organization, that there are people who are going to unfortunately do things that are not accurate, but they're not endorsed, and it's not something that I have ever participated in, and most do not participate in. And so we just have to be mindful of that people can take things on their own to do things that are not with the organization's values and standards.
Any other comments on that question?
And I think there's like a healthy way of, going through a process versus the more like abusive hazing that one may see. I know when I was in school, there were a number of alpha chapters that, were suspended for, doing things that didn't make sense, tying people's legs together and making them go swim. And that resulted in like someone drowning. Like obviously that is a terrible way to have some kind of intake process. Like that's hazing. Alpha Phi Alpha and other organizations condemn that, but there's like healthy, more of kind of camaraderie building, things that people go through that's more of just like process building and, building that sense of brotherhood or sisterhood that I think is healthy. But obviously the hazing aspect of, like that kind of more hardcore hazing that can lead to, loss of life or things like that is not healthy.
So I'll just kind of come back to it, that when those things occur, that the organization does deal with that swiftly. And for those who are involved in it, 9 times out of 10, they're actually dismissed from the organization because they violated the code and standards of that organization.
Thank you. The next question is one that's you see a lot in the world, a lot in social arenas, a lot out there in general. But there's the question on, as a Christian, being a member of one of these organizations, can you get a brand tattoo of your organization? Is that something that Christians can do? And I'll give some background on the brand. Any ranchers? Any cattle, livestock people in here? The brand, the process of a brand is to sum it up, hot iron on flesh. That's the process of a brand. So the question to the panel is, can Christians and members of these organizations get brands, get tattoos on their bodies of their organization? Open to everyone.
I think it's a personal choice. I mean, my choice is not to put anything on my body that's going to mar me. That's my choice, and that's something that I feel very strongly about. But there are others who feel that participate in for various reasons. Maybe that's a way that they bond with their brother or sister online, but it's not something that I personally would do or promote.
Okay, so I got a brand and a tattoo. So, I just, yeah, you come through this process, you proud of what you've done, you proud of what you've accomplished, and you get to a point where it's like, yeah, I want to show this off. I want people to know. So, yes, you do it. But the thing about it is, it's just a sign. It's just, that's all it is. It's not something where you're saying, I'm donating my life to this. It's just a sign, an emblem that says, hey, yeah, I'm a member.
I do want to chalk it up to youth. In immaturity, I guess, yes. I too have been branded as well. Remember it vividly. But I don't think it necessarily makes me any less of a Christian. I still love God. It's just being a babe in Christ and you mature. Would I go back and do it? No. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things that oftentimes when that happens, I don't ever see someone who's been in the bond for 40 years and then they decide, you know what, I think I want to get a brand. So I think it's something that's more so based on, just if that's something that you want to be a part of you physically.
I want to address that from a biblical perspective on the branding and the tattoo piercing. Leviticus 19:28, it says, and this is a verse that I've heard people reference when they argue against receiving a brand or a tattoo. And let me say that from the outset. I'm not saying I'm for or against yet, but this is just a verse I believe that people use, and I want to argue against this verse. It says, you shall not make any cuts in your body for the dead. And I want you to underline that for the dead. Often when we look at verses and we use them, and this is one of the, what I would say, fallacies and that happens with so many arguments against Greek letter organizations, is people take a biblical text and they use it out of its context. You have to use the proper hermeneutic when you approach the Bible. And contextually, Leviticus is giving the civil and ceremonial laws for the Jewish people and how they would worship a holy God and operate in cleanliness and holiness. This was a ritual or rite, branding, piercing, markings, and cutting in the body that was used for the purpose of worshiping and honoring often the dead, or on occasions in 1 Kings 18, I think in 28, where it is used to appease their God, to garner the affection or devotion or favor of their God. And so we use this verse without understanding contextually how it's being used biblically. This was for the dead or some pagan deity. The branding that most individuals receive in Greek organizations, or piercings, or whatever the case may be, someone received tattoos, it is not because the Greek organization commands it as a ritual or a rite or a form or mode of worship. It is something that individuals have chosen to do because they identify with it socially, because of the fraternization, the brotherhood, sisterhood. It is not because the organization itself demands it. And so when we're talking about, can a Christian participate? Yes, with the organization. Whether they get brand, whether they decide to make this like a form of God is a distinction. And this is not the clarity that we see when people often are renouncing or denouncing. They don't make that distinction. And so the organization itself, none of the fraternities or sororities demand that we are brand, demand that we have a form of worship or ritual to a Greek deity. There is no codified document that says we must bow down. It's not there. And so to take Leviticus, and then you can take 1 Corinthians 6, I hear a lot of people reference as well, that the body is the temple of God. And I'm sorry to be long-winded, but that's my Baptist in me coming out, but I'm going to be brief. But 1 Corinthians chapter 6, it says the body is the temple of God, 1 Corinthians 6:18. But the reality is this, is that that entire chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, is referencing immorality, primarily sexual immorality. Porneia, the term used there in the Greek, is, he says, flee porneia, sexual sins. And he's talking about a person who is a Christian who has the very Spirit of God indwelling them, partaking in immoral behavior. And so when you go into a prostitute, he says, I think it's 13, he says, you and them are becoming one because the two should become one flesh. And so you can't necessarily use that verse to try to argue against a Greek organization, because once again, the Greek organization does not promote, endorse, nor affirm worship of a deity, branding, piercing of a deity, nor any document, literature that's written that references us worshiping and serving a Greek deity.
Thank you for that response. After reviewing a lot of footage, there are some common themes that individuals did use to support denouncing, removing themselves from the organization. There were a few of the big ones. One big one which we addressed last week was the fact that they believe that some of these organizations had Greek deities as idols. That was one reason. Another big reason that individuals chose to either renounce, denounce, or not join is the concept of an oath. An oath is taken to be a part of the organization. And I'll read one passage that is typically associated with this justification that's used to renounce or denounce an organization. And this text can be found in the book of Matthew, and it's chapter 5, verses 34 through 37. And I'll go ahead and read those from the New American Standard, starting again, Matthew chapter 5, verse 34 through 37. But I say to you, make no oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, or by Jerusalem, for it is a city of the great king. Nor shall you make an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your statement be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything beyond these is of evil. Now, this next question is for the entire panel. As being a Christian, first and foremost, can you be associated or be a member of an organization where part of the process to become a member can involve taking an oath?
So, excuse me, so the taking an oath thing is, that's kind of a common part of a lot of organizations, but jobs as well. You're a police officer, you're going to take an oath. Okay, you're a politician, you're going to take an oath. There's different jobs that you have to take. If you're a doctor, you're going to take an oath. Okay, so it's not just the idea of just taking an oath. Now, the oath that you do take and during the process of becoming a member, it's not taken towards where the organization or any letter or any item or feature of the organization is going to become something that you have to worship. Okay, it's pretty much saying that I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, follow the values that I'm supposed to follow. Okay, and these values do not conflict. So another thing I wanted to point out too is a lot of people who come through the process, we had a saying that says, many are called but few are chosen. But what that really is that you really don't have to go all the way through it. You can quit at any time. It's not something that once you start, you're locked into for life. You decide that, hey, I don't want to be a Kappa anymore. I don't want to be a Q anymore. Don't wear the letters. Just stop. It's not something that you're forced into and that you have to do.
And I think when it comes to taking an oath, it's not to divulge the secrets and things that go on in that organization, which is, common with most organizations, that whatever happens there, it stays there because it's for the members of that organization, not those who have not become members of that organization. And one of the things that attracted me to Delta Sigma Theta was its association and its founding on Christian values. And that's something I took very seriously before I joined and considered very strongly. And if you know about the organization that you're going to join, which you should, then you'll know whether or not that is something that you want to partake in. And unfortunately, there are people in any organization who take it to another level and they do things that they shouldn't do, and then you just don't associate with those people. You have that personal choice. But as far as the oath taking, that was my oath to abide by the values and guiding principles of Delta Sigma Theta and to respect the organization's secrets and standards that belong only to those members. So I had no problem pledging my oath to that. So it does not conflict with me being a Christian overall because I'm a Christian first. And whatever I do, whatever I participate in, is guided by being a Christian.
I echo that same sentiment, and even as an educator, and I do it so that my students will, but I don't worship a flag because it does say I pledge allegiance to the flag. So I don't think that necessarily makes me less of or more of Christian, and I'm not doing the same thing with the organization either. So when I took that oath, it's much of the same thing. I'm going by those principles. I'm going to stand for that. There are numerous things that I see other brothers doing, that because of that oath, I don't mimic what they're doing. So I think it's really just a matter of how you perceive the organization and what it is that you're really standing for when you take that oath.
I disagree. So, yeah.
One of the things I look at is that, again, to contextually, Matthew 5 is not saying we can't take oaths at all. That's just an abuse of that text. And once again, is eisegesis of the biblical text. What people, many people who are renouncing and denouncing tragically are doing, they've gotten caught up in the fervor of individuals who last week I referenced, I believe, have this resentment as well as this envious attitude toward many organizations, not just Greek letter organizations, and there's a desire to tear them down. Because if you come to Matthew chapter 5 and he says this, then you would have to understand they would go against everything in the entire system of our society. You can't purchase a home without an oath. Your student loan to enter college required an oath. You promised to pay it back. When you sign up for your Netflix subscription, you take an oath to pay and to honor it. But not only that, you're not saying that you endorse or embrace every aspect of Netflix. Some of the smut that they might have on some of their channels, some of the organizations they donate to. You're taking an oath to honor your commitment to this subscription, to pay it monthly. And so herein again, we take biblical text and it's confirmation bias. We use anything that will substantiate or support our already preconceived notions about something. And that's what people are doing here. And it's tragic because it's really just the desire to tear down what so many hard-working individuals have done to build these organizations and to make them influential and relevant in the society and productive. And so that's for me where, again, once again, I ask, and if somebody's watching this via live stream or maybe even the sanctuary, if you're here and you say, hey, I have the argument where these organizations do worship these, send it to me, please. Don't send me a dissertation. I don't want your comments. I want your statement where you see a Greek letter organization worshiping a deity, but nobody has done that. It's just this fervor that has happened, and most of these arguments were spawned outside of the organization, not from within. These are individuals who have never pledged a Greek organization, and they are putting these arguments forward. So if you have it, please send it to me. I would love to read only the argument where they're worshiping deities, not because you want to critique and you're angry. If you're angry, just, deal with your anger. But let's just show this is not ours.
Oh, nothing for me.
One other question for the panel. Again, this round table discussion was about a young adults ministry, and we have a lot of individuals in college, a lot of college-aged students, and in some cases high school kids that are looking at colleges as well. Question for Stacy: You're an educator. You have a young man or a young woman that says, "Mr. Harper, I know you're a part of an organization. I'm thinking about joining X." Well, what's your comments to that individual?
Well, I often tell those students, first of all, don't necessarily look at what you see on TV. It's not just that. There is work that you must do. And I also offer to them, always think of it as what can you do to further either the image or the principles of the organization, not necessarily what are they going to do for you, and can you network with this person and anything like that. I definitely make sure that I push for them. Just make sure that your grades are up, that if you are serious about this, do your research on it. Don't necessarily just go by what you see with us, and definitely look to those who are, if you're looking at me, what is it about me that makes you want to join the organization? If I'm just twirling a cane, I'm like, no, don't necessarily join the organization just for that. So really just, what is it about the principles of my organization do you see that you can further offer for its growth?
Thank you.
I agree. I'm an educator in middle school, and most of them don't even know what it means, or they've maybe seen videos and they've seen the dancing and the strutting and all those things, or they may see me with my, something with my Greek letters on them, and they'll ask me, Miss Evans, what does that mean? And so I share with them, what this Greek lettered organization is and why I joined it. And not only that, but I speak through my walk, and I know that they're watching me every day and how I handle myself, how I speak to them in class. And I think that's first and foremost, that we have to walk the walk, because that demonstrates more than any words that we can say.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, at this point, would everyone please give our panelists a round of applause for their time today? Now, at this point, I do want to open it up for any questions and answers from anyone that's here in the sanctuary or watching on live stream. We do have time for any open Q&A at this time. We have some mics that are floating around, and raise your hand and we will make sure you get one of those.
Thank you for all the answers, the Q&A. I think it's phenomenal. And it also gave an opportunity to open up some eyes. One question I do have is, because I do chart a lot of things for youth. We do a lot of crazy things in our, as for adults who are grown and post-grad, what is the incentive to join a Greek fraternity or sorority over having that same commitment to help build the church?
That is an excellent question, and I open it up to everybody on the panel.
You're talking about alumni? Yeah, alumni chapters. Yeah, and grad. So the concept there is pretty much the same. We're looking at the social aspect, community, how can we actually serve and be a part of something that is actually beneficial to the community. And there's another aspect on that is that, and something I wish everybody would do more often, is actually go back and look at the history, because the history is not only ingrained in fraternities, but it's also ingrained in American history. Most of these Greeks started in the early 1900s. So a lot of that information, a lot of that stuff kind of triggers alumni to want to come out and want to join later.
I was going to say that one of the reasons why that option is available, first and foremost, is that people may have wanted to join during their undergraduate years, but for whatever reason weren't able. So this gives them another opportunity to be involved with the organization and become a part of that organization. And that's why that option is out there, to help those who were unable to do so, and also to continue the work of the organization beyond those college years, because it's a lifetime commitment, and because Delta Sigma Theta is, and all the D9 are committed to doing work for the rest of their lives. You have to have that that vehicle available, and so that helps to encourage the lifeline of the organization to continue to commit to service and scholarship.
Legacy. What you're
Absolutely,
referring to,
legacy.
it extends the legacy, and a lot of people are financially at a different position post-grad to not only pledge but also participate and contribute at a different level. And the rewarding part of this is that so many kids are usually the beneficiaries of that, because now there's more scholarship dollars, there's more mentoring opportunities. It's just so much. And so now I want to throw something about that church piece, because I had one pastor that was concerned about one of his deacons who pledged Omega grad, and he said, hey man, he's more faithful to Omega Psi Phi than he is sometimes his responsibility as deacon. If I could get him at this prayer services like I need him at, he go to them chapter meetings. So once again, it's priorities. It's not the frat's fault that he has misplaced his priorities. It's his fault.
And actually, for at least Alpha and probably the rest of the organizations, many of the individuals in like the corporate side of Alpha Phi Alpha and others are actually more postgraduate participation than those who pledged undergrad. At least more of a share than you would think.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if there were anyone in here who denounced their organization, because I did. And it was mainly because of the oath. Like someone got me to look back at my pledge, and it sounded too much like the Matthew, please forgive me, but I forgot this at first, but in my pledge, it was I give my mind, my body, my heart to that organization. And when someone encouraged me to take a look at that, I was like, oh my goodness, yeah. And in Matthew, Jesus says, you know, give your mind, body, your heart, your soul to God, and to treat your neighbor as you would have them treat you. And that's the two, you know, the most important, you know, of the commandments. So based on that, I did denounce my organization. I threw away all my paraphernalia, everything. It's burned, but that was my decision, so.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Can I ask you a question? And thank you so much for being transparent and for sharing that. I really appreciate it. I want to ask, you said you denounced because of the oath that you took to the organization.
Yes.
And do you believe that oath, all these years, because was it done, did you pledge undergrad or graduate?
Yes, I did in grad. I was part of undergrad and I transitioned to grad.
Your grad chapter, okay.
Yes.
So let me ask this question. So those years that you were participating with your organization, did it affect your ability to live out your Christian faith?
Well, let me be honest. I don't think yes, I called myself Christian, but was I living as a follower of Christ? The argument could have been no.
Right.
It was lately, you know, that I really got the understanding of what a Christian is.
Right.
And from there, and that's when things just started opening up and my eyes were open to, you know, what I probably shouldn't be a part of.
So one other question, and if I'm being too invasive, just say, hey, that's too much. I don't want to answer that question. So did the organization cause you not to, how did it prohibit you from living out your faith and your devotion to the Lord? What did it do, that oath and that organization, how did it hinder you from living your faith and exercising your devotion to the Lord? It's on.
Okay, it didn't hinder me, truthfully, but I think you were bringing up something like Netflix and things like that, and that to me it's not the same, because services like that, you're just promising to pay for a service. It's not that you're, you know, giving your mind, your body, your you know, heart to it. Sure. As some of these pledges, you know, when you're joining these secret organizations, you are asked to do a, you know, pledge to that organization.
Well, see, I felt like when I signed my mortgage documents, I gave up my mind, heart, and soul to it, because
I agree.
I felt like I made a greater commitment when I signed my mortgage documents were that thick that I needed a day or two to read through than it was with my organization, because the ramifications with the oath to my mortgage are greater than my oath with Kappa Alpha Psi. I can choose today, I'm done with Kappa Alpha Psi, and I can walk away, but not so with that mortgage. It follows me all the days of my life, and they can and they can come and gather my assets. And I'm not trying to listen. I'm not trying to be dismissive and diminish what you're saying. Listen, that's not it. I don't want to. I'm not belittling you in any way. But what I am trying to get at is, again, still these are two different arguments here. The argument is, did the organization cause you to worship it? And I'm saying that is not the case. The issue is that we make choices where we put our devotion, our loyalty, our energy, our dollars, our time, talents, and treasures, but it's not the organization's fault. And even the oath you took, it never forced you at any point to bow down and worship it. Because you could, just like you did, you walked away and it's done. And so what my point is, what I'm saying is this, is that we have to make certain that we're clear when we provide clarity when we're trying to degrade these organizations, these Greek, or as you said, secret groups. It's not their fault. It's the individual's choice. Because I could take your business, hypothetically, a Chase. If you work for Chase and now you got Chase bumper stickers, Chase paraphernalia, you got a mortgage with Chase, auto loan with Chase, you go to the Chase Christmas party, the annual events, you travel with Chase, and you live a life of revelry and immorality. Is that Chase's fault? No, it's not Chase's fault. It's your decision. And that's the same thing when it comes to these organizations. And when you go to demonize an organization versus a behavior, I think we need to make a clarity. And that's the only thing I was trying to make a distinction between.
Okay, I'm just not too.
We have a 10:30 service, but I would love to connect with you after, get more information, and hear your story. This is a very interesting, a very hot topic, and this is not the last of the discussion that we will have around this topic. So I encourage everyone to stay tuned for future roundtables, future discussions we might have around that. But I do want to speak to you to learn more about you. We just have a hard stop for a 10:30 service. I definitely appreciate everybody that came out today, that came to the sanctuary and watched on live stream. And as the pastor mentioned, any other questions, you can feel free to email those over. The question and stance, feel free to email those over. And thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. Thank the panelists for their involvement and their commitment as well. Thank you, everyone.